Prototype suit. Before Mark Grayson became Invincible, before the iconic suit, before the big battles, he started with something way simpler. The prototype suit was basically his first attempt at being a superhero, made right after discovering his powers. At this point, he didn't even have a name yet. He was just a kid testing out what he could do, trying to figure out how to help people. So this suit represents that raw, early stage where everything is new and uncertain. The design itself is as basic as it gets, but that's what makes it work. It's made up of an orange long sleeve shirt, blue pants with yellow stripes, gloves, and a mask with goggles. Nothing advanced, no special materials, no tech, just something he could throw together and wear. It gives off strong homemade costume energy, like something between a Halloween outfit and a beginner superhero uniform. And honestly, that fits perfectly for where Mark is at this point. This suit is actually tied to some important early moments. Mark wears it during his first real attempts at hero work, including his encounter with Titan. These moments aren't about winning big fights, they are about learning. He's still figuring out how strong he is, how fast he can move, and how it actually means to be a hero. The suit becomes part of that learning phase, almost like training wheels for his superhero journey. This is Mark at his most pure and unfiltered, before the trauma, before the responsibility really hits. There's no pressure, no legacy yet, just a kid trying to do the right thing. And that's why, even though it's the least advanced suit he ever wears, it's one of the most important. It marks the exact moment Mark Grayson takes his first step toward becoming invincible. The Bulletproof Suit. After Mark's first outing, Omni-Man takes him to Art's tailor shop to get a real superhero costume, and that's where the Bulletproof Suit comes in. This was one of the first professional designs made specifically for him. Unlike his homemade prototype, this suit was actually built with purpose and functionality in mind. For a moment, this could have been Invincible's official look, but Mark just didn't vibe with it. What made this suit stand out was its disc-based system. It featured special plates designed to absorb kinetic energy, meaning it could reduce the impact of hits, basically making it more bulletproof. That's where the idea behind the suit really shines. It wasn't just about looking like a hero, it was about surviving fights. It also kept the goggles Mark liked, showing that some early design elements still carried over. Even with all those upgrades, Mark turned it down. The main reason? It just didn't feel right. The bright orange, the yellow colors were too flashy for his taste, and disc design looked weird to him. More importantly, it didn't feel like his identity. This moment is actually important because it shows that Mark isn't just picking a suit, he's choosing how he wants to be seen as a hero. And this version didn't match that vision. Even though Mark rejected it, the suit didn't go to waste. It was later given to Zendal Randolph, who became the hero Bulletproof. So in a way, this suit still became part of the Invincible legacy, just not for Mark himself. It's kind of funny because what didn't work for one hero ended up defining another. The original suit. This is where everything really clicks. After rejecting the early design, Mark finally figures out who he wants to be, not just in terms of power, but in identity. Once he chooses the name Invincible, the suit suddenly has meaning behind it. This isn't just a costume anymore, it's his symbol. It's the moment Mark stops, experimenting, and fully steps into the role of a superhero, with a clear identity and purpose. The original Invincible suit is simple, but incredibly effective. It features a yellow mask with goggles, a bold yellow pattern running down the torso, and a mix of blue and black accents, forming that recognizable M shape across the chest and shoulders. The colors are bright but not overwhelming, and everything feels clean and intentional. It's the kind of design that instantly stands out while still feeling grounded and practical. This is the suit Mark wears during his first real missions as Invincible. Whether it's stopping criminals or facing bigger threats, this costume becomes tied to his early growth as a hero. It's about that phase where he's still learning, still making mistakes, but also starting to prove himself. Every win, every loss, every lesson, it all happens in this suit, which is why it becomes so iconic. This is a version of Mark that's hopeful, determined, and still believes he can do good without losing himself. Even later in the story, when things get darker, this suit always stands as a reminder of who he was at the beginning. The blue-black suit. Often called the serious suit, it marks a major shift in Mark's story. This isn't the same hopeful kid anymore. By the time he puts this on, he's been through brutal fights, heavy losses, and situations that forced him to grow up fast. The brighter colors are gone, replaced with darker tones that reflect exactly where he is mentally. This suit feels more like armor for someone who's been pushed too far. Design-wise, the suit keeps the core structure of his original look, but strips it down. The colors shift to deep blue and black, the details are simplified, and elements like knee pads are removed. It's more minimal, more serious, and honestly more intimidating. The goggles now have white accents, and the overall look feels sharper and more controlled. It's the kind of design that immediately tells you this version of Mark is not playing around anymore. It is also tied to some of the intense moments in the series, especially during events like the Invincible War and his fight with Conquest. These aren't just fights, they are survival. This is Mark on survival mode. He is pushed to his absolute limits, both physically and emotionally, and during this time, his behavior starts to change. He becomes more aggressive, more willing to cross lines he normally wouldn't. Whether the suit is actually cursed or not, it becomes associated with that darker side of him. Eventually, Mark decides to walk away from the suit, and that decision says everything. To him, it represents pain, anger, and the version of himself he doesn't want to become. He feels like wearing it influenced his mindset, pushing him toward worse decisions, even killing. So going back to his original suit isn't just about design, it's about rejecting that darker path. The serious suit may look cool, but for Mark, it's a reminder of who he almost became and chose not to be. The Coalition of Planets suit. The Coalition uniform marks a big shift in Mark's journey, not just in design, but in role too. At this point, he's no longer just protecting Earth as a traditional superhero, he's now working with the Coalition of Planets, operating on a much larger intergalactic scale. This suit reflects that change perfectly. It's less about identity and more about function. Mark isn't just invincible anymore, he's part of something bigger. Unlike his previous suits, this one isn't unique to him, it's a standardized uniform worn by members of the Coalition, including Omni-Man and Oliver. The design features a sleek blue and gray color scheme, a white emblem on the chest, and a more structured look overall. There's even a cape and collar, giving it a more official, almost military vibe. It feels less personal and more like something you wear as part of a team or organization. While wearing the suit, Mark takes on a different kind of role. Instead of reacting to threats, he's now sent on missions, acting more like a soldier or agent. Whether it's investigating battles or working alongside other powerful beings, his responsibilities become more strategic. This phase of his story shows how far he's come from street-level hero to someone involved in galaxy-level conflicts. Even though the suit looks clean and functional, it lacks something important, and that's identity. It doesn't represent Mark the way his original suit does. It's not about who he is, it's about what he's doing, and that's why it never really sticks as his defining look. Eventually, Mark goes back to his classic suit, choosing something that reflects him, not just his role. The Coalition uniform is important, but it's more about duty than identity. The Emperor suit. By the time Mark reaches this stage, he's no longer just invincible, the arch hero we started with. He's now the leader of the Viltrumites, carrying responsibility not just for a planet, but for an entire empire. The Emperor suit reflects that transformation perfectly. This isn't a costume meant for fighting crimes in the streets, it's meant for ruling, commanding, and representing power on a galactic scale. The final Emperor suit stands out immediately because of its clean, rugged look. The color palette shifts to white, gold, and blue, giving it more noble and balanced appearance compared to the darker or more aggressive designs from before. It often includes elements like a long robe, a high collar, and flowing details that make it feel more like royal attire than battle gear. Everything about it says authority, control, and evolution. Mark has gone through everything: loss, war, anger, and doubt, and come out the other side more mature and controlled. This version of him isn't driven by emotional trauma anymore. He's balanced, and the suit reflects that by blending elements of his past, his original colors and identity with his present. His role as a Viltrumite leader is the perfect visual of who he's become. This is essentially peak Mark Grayson, not just in terms of power, but in identity. He's no longer trying to prove himself, no longer figuring things out. He knows exactly who he is. The Emperor suit represents the end of his journey from a kid in a homemade outfit to a fully realized leader. In simple terms, this suit represents the ultimate version of Invincible.